You can have everything in life you want if you will just help other people get what they want. And that is a quote by Zig Ziglar. If you haven't read Zig Ziglar's books, they're like the foundation of success. But my guest today, Jeff Lubin, also just released an amazing book that is the foundation of having a very successful photography business. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff uh, around that. Before I introduce the amazing Jeff, remember to go to lucidumascoaching.com, Lucy with an I, and you can find out more about what I offer. You can book a quick chat on anything, or you can always find my podcast. Okay, so I've known Jeff his entire career and most of mine because he's been in business over 40 years. And he is one of the most successful photographers that has ever been. He has a classic style and a business structure that keeps his studio earning high six figures and even sometimes seven. So he structured it where he still has time to golf and teach and write and enjoy life. He is a PPA Master Craftsman, business coach, author of two books, soon to be three. And the latest book is the Professional Photography Playbook, Mastering Portrait Photography, Branding and Business Success. That's the new one, Jeff?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the new one, the photography one that's on Amazon for sale now.
Yeah, and you can find that on Amazon. I downloaded the Kindle version because I like being able to copy paste and things like that. Uh, so Jeff's dedication to his craft and to making a difference in our industry has earned him numerous national and state awards. He has a reputation as I said, one of the best photographers in the industry. He started teaching early in his career, and that's why I've known of Jeff so long because I've taken his workshops uh, numerous times. He has had photographs on the cover of the Professional Photographer magazine and over 50 photographs in other magazines. And he wants to make sure that you join his Facebook Jeff Lubin Tip of the Day group because he gives amazing information and you can scroll down and down to other days and you'll learn a lot. Okay, so welcome, Jeff. Thank you so much for being on my show again.
Well, Lucy, thank you. It's great being here. And hopefully we'll impart some wisdom and share some good ideas so some of your fans will get some tips and things that they can use to help them along the way.
Yeah, and that people will get hooked into your world because you're like a fountain of knowledge and you explain things in a way that make so much sense and you cut through the wasted thoughts to like targeted boom, these are true things. This is what to do. So I've always enjoyed that about you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So um I guess I like to start with just a little about how you got into business.
Yeah, right. So a lot of people in our industry usually don't go to school to be in our industry. They usually find themselves with an unhappy job
Mhm.
or or they have somebody in their family that was doing it or something. And so I was that way. I worked for the government for 16 years.
Mm.
And I guess today they would have cut me.
Yeah.
But back then nobody left because it was such a safe place to be, you know.
Right.
So, but after 16 years, I really wasn't going anywhere, and I really didn't like the work. So I was working at the Library of Congress in the copyright division.
Mm.
I learned a lot about copyright. That wasn't really not being a lawyer. All the upper people in the industry were lawyers. So I uh, I was unhappy, and like so many people are when they're in jobs that don't fit them. And I took a photograph, and they had an art display for the employees, and I put it out there. And it was a photograph of a barn in a field, and now it's like brush strokes or whatever, the grass. So they were coming to so I started getting a reputation as a photographer, but I was just really playing. And people, next thing I know, somebody said, "Well, will you come and photograph a wedding? You know, second wedding, small little
Hmm.
wedding." So I went and bought a amp photo book, and I went and I photographed the wedding. And of course, I didn't ask for any money back then. I was working, and so they loved it, and I started thinking, wow, I'd like to do more of this. So that's when I decided to go. Somebody gave me information about a seminar for the Maryland photographers, and I went
Mm.
to that. And Charles Lewis, who has been around a
Oh,
long,
yeah.
long, was the speaker there.
Oh, great.
And he was, and he was like, how, man, you could really make a living doing this stuff. So I thought, this is great. Of course, I bought all his books and tapes, and he sold a lot of them. And so
Hmm.
I would, riding to work and home, I'd listen to those things. And I mean, I didn't really know anything, Lucy. So I was educating myself in the world of business. At the meantime, in my area, the late great Monty Zucker
Hmm.
was a great wedding photographer, internationally known, and he was also a great teacher. And he also gave classes. And so from him, I learned the art side of lighting and posing and things like that, the traditional ways. And he was a very strict teacher. And if you took courses with him, it was every little finger, every little
Hmm.
thing that light was. And it was really good foundational learning, traditional lighting and posing. So I combined those two. I mean, to combine his art and then Charles' business.
Hmm.
And then I kind of came up with my own style, this medium key portraiture that wasn't being done a lot.
Hmm.
And so one thing led to another, and things were rough and working out of the home with the wife and two kids. So she didn't want the business in the home. So I went and rented a little studio, and I would go to work 6:30 to 3 in the morning, 6:30 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon. And then after that, I would go to the studio and work till 11 at night,
Mm.
7 days a week. So I ran them both for 3 years. And of course, that wasn't too working out well because she wasn't happy because I was never home. So she said, you have to do something here. So I said, okay, after 3 years, if I'm not making it, I'll either quit the job or quit the photography. So I'm not going to do that. And so after 3 years, I was really had built it up, and I was making twice what the government was paying me. So I figured I wouldn't starve. So I quit my government job and went full time.
Ah,
And
I,
that one thing after another, it's like a
yeah,
story.
yeah. So, a couple of comments on that. I went to Charles Lewis when he was here in San Diego, and I've since made amends, but a friend of mine and I split the 16 tapes or whatever he had, the cassettes, and he made copies for me. And I kept the telephone tape in my little Volkswagen. This was probably the same tour that he was on. And I just listened to it over and over and over and over and over. And I listened to all the other ones too. But the telephone tape was the one that I still, when I'm coaching people, I teach them his magic sentence at the first phone call. And then, yeah, Monty, I never took, I took like half day programs with him, but never super immersive. But I love, you and I stand on the shoulder of giants, and
It's true.
and
It's
you know,
true.
and so I love that you are still now you're a shoulder for other people, and I've last 10 years I've been doing more, sharing what I've learned and such. So yeah, so
Yeah, I'm a big believer, I can tell you it's not really funny story. And it's the people who are listening to your show now are going to be always saying to themselves, well, now that AI is here, there's no way I'm going to make a living, or
Hmm.
this and that. And, when I started, uh, when I started, in the photography, there was this one photographer that I really looked up to, and he said to me, he says he had a studio in town. I was like, wow, this guy has a studio. This is like the big time.
Hmm.
And so I just respected him so much, and his work was great. And he says, Jeff, you don't quit your job because it's hard to make money in this business now. It's too competitive, and there's so many photographers now, and and he really discouraged me. I went home and I felt really bad. And then I thought, you know what? And I thought back to the learning that I've done with these people, and not just that, but other things I've done. And I thought, I'm going to prove him wrong. And,
Hmm.
uh, and so over the years, I've continually heard photographers say, this is now digital's here. You can't make any money. And it's the same story. And it's absolutely not true. It's absolutely not true that you can create your world the way
Hmm.
you want it. And if you keep saying it long enough and don't give up, eventually you will find yourself succeeding.
Right.
But
Right.
if you listen to the wrong people and get discouraged, it's going to make you want to quit.
Right.
And you've got
Right.
to think very high. I like to tell people, if you want to get to Mars, you don't try to get to Mars. Excuse me. So if you want to get to the moon, you don't try to get to the moon. You try to get to Mars, because if you
Mm.
try to get to Mars, you'll certainly reach the moon. And you have to reach
Right.
very high to see how far you can go. And you
Right.
can't limit yourself,
Right.
because I could talk about this for so long, but it's really important, because what goes on the 6 inches between your two ears is really as important as everything else that you learn.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that you're sharing this because you and I are examples of where all of the naysayers, all of the downturns, all of the changes in the industry, so many people that are like, oh, it's over now. Well, you and I and a bunch of people have managed to get through this. I remember the first big change was when studios, volume studios, like picture people and it was the glamour shots.
Hammer
Where all of a
shots.
sudden there was a new industry that was beyond the Sears or the Olin Mills, but where they were producing pretty decent work. And what happened is a lot of the mom and pop studios that were not, they were middle priced and they were kind of just formula. They didn't, some of them pivoted and said, okay, now I've got to do something better than that. Some of them didn't change and they lost their businesses. So it's, every one of those challenges is an opportunity to step up to a
Right.
next something while other people drop away. And that, for me, that's put me in a better position each time there's been a really serious challenge in the industry. And so AI, is another opportunity to thrive instead of or incorporate some. What I love about your work, if people have a chance to go see Jeff Lubin. Now, do you have a portrait website still?
Yeah, well, the website that I have now is really more based on coaching rather than photographs.
Okay.
A lot of my photographs are on the studio site that it's still under my name, but I've actually sold it to another photographer,
Okay. But
and he has been running it for 5 years under my name,
all
my
right.
brand that I built, which is very strong. So he's done well, and I've trained him for years. So you
Right.
can see some of my work there. Um,
But what I've always loved is that you've managed to have, a high five figure, wait, is that right? Six figure, high six
yes, I
figure business with when I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, mostly studio, um, fairly decent volume, not high volume, but steady flow every week, every month, doing kind of the classic furniture, clothing, style, posing that has never gone out of style. Like I I think we'd be hard pressed to look at your work from 8 years ago and 18 years ago and 28 years ago and decide, whoa, we know what era this was from, and that it keeps selling, and that am I right? You've been the primary photographer. Is
Oh
that
yeah,
right?
I was the only photographer up until the last few years when the
And
pandemic hit, and I just didn't want to be around people.
yeah, and
So
you've but you have your business set in a way where you you were doing enough volume and you had it structured so that you could have a great income without killing yourself or without having a big staff. Or am I right that like
that's exactly right. I've always, Lucy, I've had the opportunity many years ago and to open a number of studios all over the country
hmm?
and teach in my style and make a lot of money. But I've decided that, especially since I had spent so many years working in another job, that I did not get into photography to work myself to death.
Hmm.
So I priced myself and I marketed myself. And now this is a whole formula where I could control how much I worked and how much money I made, still had enough time to play golf on the weekends. For many years I didn't do work weekends or nights. I made them come in during the day.
Hmm.
And just like your doctor, I mean, he's not going to see you on Sunday, right? So,
Right.
if you want me, you're going to work when and that's part of your marketing and brand building, that you make yourself significant.
Right.
And, are you significant, or are you a wandering generality? You have to decide that, what you want to be.
Are you
And
significant or a wandering generality? I like that.
yeah, exactly. So, I mean, the whole thing is, what I'm trying to teach people is I want them to understand that they have that they're only going to live one time,
Mhm.
and they only have so many years, and it goes a lot faster than you think.
Yeah, it does.
Right. And so, you don't want to be sitting on your deathbed saying, wow, if I known I was going to wind up like this, I would have taken more chances,
Hmm.
because it's going to end anyway. So while you're here in this short period, why not make your life an adventure, exciting, and go for it? And don't listen to everybody else. Make up your own mind what you want your world to be. And you can absolutely do that. And I'm a living example of that. So are you. So, but the whole thing is
Okay,
that,
hold on.
okay,
Hold that thought.
I'm
So,
intended on that.
so your book is, because I know that everything in your new book, that is how you've run your business. And it's clear, like I think there might be people that like will run a how-to photography book, but it's things they've learned from other people, and they haven't really, I won't name names, but I know some people that used to be on the teaching circuit that lived in town that their business was nothing like they were teaching people to run a business. But I know that your success is because you followed and learned things that you've shared in that book. If somebody could actually do all the things, and he's got Q&A and little tests and things. So if somebody really studied it, um, and I mean, it's a bargain. Like,
It's a pure goal for the few bucks, no
yeah,
question about it.
yeah. So anyway, you are a master at doing what's important and then sharing it. And I'm so glad you wrote the book, because in your tip of the day, you always write such incredible advice. And I've been saying to you for years and years, when are you going to do the book? When are you going to do the book? So anyway, I'm so glad it's a
Yeah, it's
concentrated.
out there now.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
you know, I mean, you don't write books to make money. There's not a lot of money in books. I write the book because I want to leave a little bit of what I know to be able to inspire other people to achieve these things. And absolutely, yes, the information is in there. And if they do those things, they've got to learn a ton of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Okay. Do you remember what
It's-
I interrupted you about?
oh no, no, I know. I tend to run on, so I got to learn to shut up too
No,
much. I
it's
don't.
good stuff. It's all good stuff, Jeff. That's
Well,
um
you know, it's all coming up, but you know, the big thing every time I come on these things or when I'm doing these things, you know, I could sit here and teach, you know, what the light goes here and the light goes there, you know, and I really, you know, it's just so much more than that. It's so much deeper than that. And there are people that do excellent work and they go nowhere, you know,
mhm.
and have people who are doing, you know, okay work and they're doing just great because they understand how to build a brand. And you can't get away from it. I mean, if you're a professional photographer, and what does that mean? That means that you're doing it as a living to professionally, you're going to provide a product for people and get money for it. So you should absolutely try to be the best that you can. And you should also try to keep growing so you don't get bored with your own work. But at the same time, you've got to learn how to price and how to market and how to present your work and how to keep people happy and how to keep your book full.
Right.
You know, you can't sell to the air, Lucy. You've got to have people.
Right. Right. So
So that's
in
part of it.
doing that, and you said a word that was exactly what I was going to ask you. Now I can't remember the word, so I'll just ask you. So in doing the kind of work that you do where there's a style and it's not like every human is a new person in front of you, so it's not really repetitive, but there is a formula to it. How do you keep your creativity and your passion when when you're kind of, here's my furniture, here's some backgrounds, I've used these before. You're not reinventing the wheel every time,
No.
but yet every image that I'm sure not every time you click, but I'm sure that in every session, there's something different. There's expression, there's a feeling, there's something that comes out that's very authentic. But how do you keep that up?
Yeah. So let me back up a bit on that. That you want to understand that we're talking about clients now and the
Hmm.
people that come to you. And you're doing portraits your whole life, but most people only go to a professional photographer once or twice in
Mm.
their life. And that is it. And so if they come to you, they're not coming to get the cheap JC Penney's. They're coming because they want that one or two times in their life, they want something special. And they've recognized you as somebody who can give them something that's something they're going to really value, something they're going to want to show, and something they're going to be proud of. I mean, you know, you don't want to go to if you live in a really nice home in your living room and you want to put a nice portrait, you're not going to put a $300 JC Penney's portrait up there. You know, you would like to be proud of not just that to be a great portrait, but also the brand of it, who did it. This is Jeff Lubin portrait or whatever.
Hmm.
So there's that aspect of it. So then you need to have a certain style, I think. If you want your work to be identified from everybody else, then there has to be something about you that you can bring to the table all the time. So if you go look at some websites and they've got, you know, so many common themes, you know, indoor in the backyard and this, that, and they may be all beautiful, but how do you know, how can the public be able to identify you from somebody else if you don't have
Hmm.
a particular style or a particular look to it? And so I think that where you start by having yes, you have to learn how to make a great portrait. You have to learn how to identify a good expression on a person. If you can't identify a good expression, then you can't present something that somebody's going to want. And you've got to be able to analyze a face, analyze their nose, analyze all the things about them. So when they're in front of the camera, you can, while you're doing your work, you're lighting, and you can identify that moment when that person whatever you have to do to create, have that happen. Maybe you might say something, maybe you'll do something, but you know when it's not there and you know when it is.
Hmm.
And if you can create an expression, this Charles Lewis told me one thing, ESP, expression sells portraits.
Mm.
And everything could be great. If people don't like their expression, they're not going to buy it. And everything could be kind of like a little bit wonky, but if they look great, they're going to want it. You see what I'm saying?
Hmm.
You can't capture good expression if you don't know what it is. You can't see it.
Right. Yeah.
Why are you in the business of portrait photography anyway? Go take photographs of perfume bottles if you can't deal with people. You
Right.
see what I'm saying? So you
Yeah.
have to have that, and you need to have some kind of a personality that makes people feel comfortable in front of you so they will open up. Or you need to know how to open them up. So these are all the intricacies after you've learned the lighting, the posing, all the technical things. These are the intricacies, the small things that
Hmm.
make a big difference. So when you're sitting down and you're presenting them that portrait, Lucy, they look at that and they like it. They don't know why they like it, but they like the way they look, or they
Hmm.
like the way their child looks.
Right.
You
Right.
know, that's the way my child looks at me when I'm home. I want that
Right.
as opposed to this distance. You see what I'm saying?
Hmm.
That's so this is something a part of the actual what the background is and the props. It's something more than that.
Right.
It's an invisible thing. You can't touch it, but it's there.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
almost tangible.
I look back at some images early in my portrait work where I was trying to figure out backgrounds, and or if I'm outdoors, I didn't understand that the brightest part of the picture becomes the subject. So, I'd have hot backgrounds and things that I think, oh, from a photographic standpoint, fine, but not something I'm super proud of. But like you, because I'm a people person, I've always had that ability to capture an expression that is read as an authentic part of my subject. So the people, like I had somebody come in, she wanted to see if I still had the negatives because she wanted to make an album for her son, who was now 20. And when we did the portraits when he was little, she said it's the most valuable investment she's made in her life. And so I found those negatives and I got them scanned, and I'm like, oh, these, in terms of print quality and sharpness and things, ooh, these are not the best, but she loved them and I was
Right.
proud of them at the time. So what I think you're saying, the answer to my question about how do you do something that's fairly repetitive in terms of the scenes that you create, because it's mostly in studio, and stay fresh and inspired. What I'm hearing is that you hold that awareness that each one of these people, it's their first or one of the few times they'll ever be in front of a camera, and you remember how much it's going to mean to them in the future. And so you stay present. Am I right? That like you're present to
Yes.
this moment, not like, oh, I've had a child in a white fluffy dress in this chair many times, but you haven't had this child. Am I right? That
Yes,
you stay
that's
aware
exactly.
of what you're doing and the value of it.
If somebody comes to you, see, they're giving you trust. They're trusting you. They don't know what they want. If they always say, "Well, what do you want?" Well, I know when I'll see it. Well,
Hmm.
I can't tell you because that's not. They're saying, "Here's my child. Here's my family. Create
Right.
something for me." You've
Right.
got the cachet. You've got the what is your magic? What is your what is your thing to do? And
Hmm.
so that's what I was talking about earlier about being a professional. It isn't about you using them as your prop, as your play toy to do something
Right.
that's fun. You're getting their money to give them something that they're going to love. and they're
Right.
not going to love it unless it's great. And so you got to learn the techniques. You got to learn how high the camera is and the lighting and all those things because, you know, the light portraiture is nothing but light, and you've got to learn how to use the light. And the camera is just a lens. It doesn't have a brain. It's you have to tell it where to go.
Hmm.
All the AI in the world isn't going to tell you where to put the lens. You got to know where the camera goes. You got to read the faces. That only you can do that. That's a skill.
Hmm.
So those are little skills within the, as you might say, the same background or whatever. That has really nothing to do with the creativity. You might use things around you, to like putting on a play to make the scene look really interesting and fun to watch the play. But if the actors don't do a good job, then the set means nothing.
Right.
You know,
Right.
you can make the most beautiful set in the world and you have lousy actors.
Yeah.
You're not going to enjoy the play. When I was young, and I mean back way back, we had these shows like the Craft Hour, and they had the same few people in the same room for an hour to do a show. So all they had was dialogue and acting. But
Hmm.
they were great shows because they had such skill at
Mm.
making people believe it. And now you have everything. But that the point is you learn these things that are ordinary.
Say it
Anybody can
again.
go
You
on
had a little
YouTube and
glitch there
learn
for a
how to
second.
bring a light in the
Jeff,
background. But
Jeff,
ours,
you had a little glitch there. You said you learn these things that are what?
um, I don't know
Extraordinary?
exactly what I said, but I mean, you learn these things. Um, it's all really a combination. It's
Yeah.
never one thing.
Right.
You could go on YouTube and you can learn everything you want to about taking a portrait, but that's never going to be authentic to you. You
Right.
know, you
Right.
need to put together all the pieces to find out who you are, to bring part of you into the work.
Mm.
See, when
So
a person,
what part of you is in your work?
well, I would say this. I would say that, and I used the example earlier as a mother talking to her child and the way the child looks at the mother. Okay. That's kind of an interaction thing. It's the same way when you're in front of your clients.
Hmm.
There's an interactive thing that happens while you're doing all the move your hand and move your leg at a
Right.
set. There's something that's happening. It's an intention that you have. You have this intention to create this great portrait. And the people can feel that you have that intention. You're not just like next,
Right.
there, as you said earlier, you're present, you're very present with them,
Hmm.
very present in your intention. Okay. And so
And
out
people
of that
feel
comes,
that and respond to that.
yes, that's what I'm saying. The way people look at you, the way when they look at you with this expression, with this connection, when they look at your portrait, when you show it to them, and they look at themselves or they look at their child, they can repeat that connection.
Hmm.
And it's real
It
because it
is.
actually happened and you captured it.
Yeah.
And you'll
Yeah.
never be able to do that just buying a chair or a background. It's way beyond that.
Right. Right. So in so I think that you are someone like me that has continually been educated, going to seminars, conventions, things like that. Am I right? That you,
I just got the other day, somebody asked me if one of my students wanted me to teach at Texas school. So that's like a lot for a week. So I said I would think about it.
yeah.
But I'm still I'm doing, what I'm doing now is if I have these few, and you're doing this too, these few individual coaching that I teach, and I don't take lots of people. But what my goal is for each of them is just like my client, I want to make them successful. I
Hmm.
want them to go beyond. And,
So
and
glad I
I
shared
see
that.
the results from, I see the results from it, and I see that actually happening.
Oh, it's so
It gives me
exciting.
tremendous confidence that not just I know what works for me.
Hmm.
Well, how do I know what works for me will work for you? You need
Right.
to see, you need to see it happen, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I am in this point in my life right now, is that I'm doing all these things and I'm getting results and so it's all kind of the same thing, but it's different, you know.
Hmm. So
And
my question was different than your answer, but I like your answer. So the question, or it was more a confirmation that part of why you know so much, besides your own experience and wisdom, is I think you've gotten continual education too, gone to Texas school or New England school, PPA conventions,
lots of
other
that stuff.
things. Yes?
You know, the whole thing, it's an interesting thing. We talk about conventions and schools and things like that. A lot of people go to these schools every year. And they go there every year because all their friends are there and they want to have a good time. And they want to learn, but they want to have a good time. So they
Hmm.
go, well, I took him last year, so I'll take him this year because I don't want to take him. But they're not really going there with the purpose. You know what I'm saying? And you
Right.
have to go to a seminar or something like that. It's great to have all those other things, but you have to go with it for a purpose because most people go and they spend a week and they come back, and then after a week they've done it, they're back to doing everything the same way. They haven't really put anything to any kind of use. Maybe they have an idea or something,
I
but you
guess,
have to be focused about intentional about
yeah.
things that you do in education. Don't you agree with that? You have to be intentional.
Yes, I don't have a belief that most people go just for fun because I never did. Um, so I don't know, maybe they do and they go back to the same, but it always, even just one tip can change everything. If I take a week of school or if I go to convention or like also repetitive, um, like going to the same teacher over and over again, I learned new things. I always went to your programs when you were teaching, uh, if you were local or if you were, doing a PPA or you came to California to do our state convention, because I always learned something new from you, even though, it's like you can't step in the same river twice. So
Right.
there's people like Drake Buseth. I've
Yeah.
sat in on his, a dozen times, even though he's almost giving the same class ish
Right.
every time. But and it's also
Yeah.
good to be reminded of things. Like it
Yeah.
took me probably 8 times of him talking about the way he has people lean into each other and move forward, that then boom, I
Yeah.
I saw it. So
Yeah,
I just,
you're never the same person. You know, he's not the same person when you go back, and you're not the same person.
yeah,
You know, sort of like you read a book a second time, or we see a movie a second time, and then you get something new, even though it's the same things, because you're not the same person that you were then. You've evolved, and and you've heard something or read something before, but you didn't ready for it. So yeah, the thing about what I would think I was trying to say is that I've had people come to me like years later and they'll say, I was in your class and that changed my life.
hmm,
Never knew that because you're all these people, so you never know who you're inspiring or who's paying attention or who's there just for a class. You
right.
don't, but I teach a class, I leave my blood on the floor. It's hard work. It's harder than
Hmm,
portraiture. And because you're trying to like get through to people, it's like some people are responsive and some just don't care. And so that's can be disappointing to you if you're leaving your blood on the floor and people are just like there for a good time. So
right, right,
that's probably the mental part about doing a week-long class is that you have to stay on purpose because you don't know who that one person is.
right,
And
right.
Charles Lewis used to say when he started, he'd say, I'm here for one of you, but I don't know who it is. You remember he would say that?
Yeah, yeah.
You would sit there saying to yourself, I'm that person. Because it was
Yeah.
great.
So
It was great.
you and I were those people. I have had him on my show, so if people are like, "Who's this Charles Lewis?" Just, you know, look through my list of speakers. It's probably been 3 years or so. But we had his classic conversation, his and it's things that still apply. And
Right.
he was making these tours 30 plus years ago, trying to get people to do wall portraits and stop thinking small and stop pricing themselves where there's no way you can make money. So I'm glad you
I
mentioned him and
you
such.
know that he learned that from someone. So I mean, this is just how it is.
Absolutely.
We all have to try to do that. You asked me to come on one of these things, or I'm in any of these things, or I'm writing a book or anything. I want something to happen. I want somebody to, that's my job. My job is to, you know, create the belief and have somebody become successful. Because that's what I can do. That's my thing. And I've got to try to do that. I'm not here to try to sell stuff or anything like that. I'm here, number one, to do that. That's my number one thing. Everything else comes to you from that. So that's why I said in the beginning of the quote, you can get anything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want.
Right. Right.
That's kind of, if you just focus, and same with your business and your clients, if you just focus on giving with them what they want, you will get what you want. Sure, you have to set your business up to be successful. You have to learn to create a brand and create pricing that's going to work for you. And you can't do everything. You can't be for everybody. Nobody can be for everybody. That's the other thing. You got to let some people walk away. They're just not your clients.
Right.
It's
Right.
okay.
Yep.
It's okay. I mean, it's the way the world is.
Yeah. Yeah. I know you've always had the heart for helping others and gotten joy out of being able to contribute and when people share with you, oh my gosh, this really rocked my world. I know that you don't have to hear that for you to still, what you said, leave your blood on the floor. I've not heard that before, but I get it, that,
That's
um,
the That's the
yeah.
feeling. Well, I just believe that if people need, here's the other problem. If I would call it a problem. Everybody goes to this thing and that thing, and they don't stay with one thing long enough to learn the one thing.
Mm,
They get so much information coming from different places that may work for that person, but they're so segmented, they're so broken up, and you're getting all these pieces and they don't all fit together. So consequently, you don't have any forward momentum. Whereas if you would stay with some, look at what did some people will say to me, I want to be good at carpentry or whatever. Um, I would say find the most successful carpenter in the world
hmm
and learn from that person because you're never going to get higher than the person that you study under.
mm,
You've got to give yourself somebody who's achieved what you want to achieve. And then if do whatever you have to do, go travel, pay that person whatever you have to do, because that's going to get you. That person's already made all the mistakes.
right,
So why would you go and make all the mistakes they made over again when you can find out in advance what they are and avoid them? Assuming you believe that they're the real thing and you trust what they're telling you.
right, right,
You see what I'm saying? And so this is you're doing this podcast, you're educating people, okay? You're photographers. So what are we telling photographers? We're telling photographers, what do you want to have happen? What do you know what you want to do? You have to know what you want and you have to know what it looks like so you can go out and get the knowledge from the person that's been successful at it.
right, right.
See what
And
I'm saying?
that's I wish there were coaches like you and I back when I was learning and growing because there's certain gaps um, that if I had learned them in a more solid way, I would have been even more successful. I've made a good living, but I always thought marketing was not a fun thing. And if I had had a guide holding my hand, week after week or month after month, and getting me to do those kinds of things that like I think we all have areas of what's most fun for us and what's a little challenging. And having a mentor that we're accountable to, on a regular basis, um, it's like warp drive, and those things that seem hard start seeming easy. And so yeah, shout out to all the coaches out there. So, you and I can't work with everybody. So,
No,
I'm sure you just say find somebody, not somebody that's worked for a couple of years in photography and decided this is hard work. I'm going to coach, but somebody
right.
with some
I'm
track
better. I'm
record.
better at telling you what to do because I can't really do it myself.
Right, right. And I do think that there are excellent coaches who know some things, let's say about marketing, that maybe haven't had a successful photography business, but they have good knowledge and they know how to support others. But in general, you know, there's nothing wrong with going with one of the mature coaches that have been around a while, right? Doesn't it? I
Well,
mean,
none of us feel old. I mean, we are old, but our eyes and our brain are the same as they ever were.
yeah,
We're
absolutely.
quite as well.
We just have more in there to share. Well, Jeff,
Yeah,
we're
absolutely.
we're almost out of time, so I have
Wow, it goes fast.
it does go fast, and you have so much to share that uh, you know, I could just sit back and we could talk for about 6 hours and hardly touch on all the things that I'd love for people to hear from you.
Well,
Um,
I'm gonna say the same thing that you told me earlier, and I'll say it to the people that, go on there, look at what I have. You got some questions, like you can always send me an email or whatever and ask me a question. So I'm always around for that.
so I know you have some downloads.
Yes, there's 4 PDFs that are very valuable. They go to my website, they're free, just download them.
What's your
And
website?
yeah, the website is it's thehighendphotographer.com.
Okay.
The high-end photographer, no, because they
Hmm.
got to write THA. The other one was gone when I got it. So,
Okay.
and you just go on there and they all the stuff, everything's on there that you want to find. And there is also yeah, my coach or part of the coaching page has a lot of photographs in it, different children, families, whatever. But in any case, yeah. But
Okay.
you find something of value. So, but anyway, it's great being here with
You
you.
too. So
And,
two more things. So
okay.
you have a YouTube channel and you're going to be
Yeah,
starting again. So it's
I'm going to be starting it up.
youtube.com
It's the
dash.
YouTube channel is just go to on the Luby at Luby320.
Okay.
www.youtube.com at Luby320.
Okay.
And
And
there's a
don't
couple
forget
of
his
videos
book
on
and don't
right
forget to join the Facebook group, Jeff Lubin
now.
Tip of the Day.
Tip of the
So,
day. That's Facebook. Just search under Jeff Lubin. You'll see that. I
great.
also have a site there where you can buy and sell photography equipment. There's nothing to do with coaching or teaching, but it's just on there. And then I have the two books that I have on Amazon. I'm very proud that they are near the top bestsellers on Amazon for photography books.
Great.
I never dreamed would happen. That's kind of cool because I never thought of myself as like an author. Like you
Well,
said, years
yes.
for me to get me to write a book. So
Yes. Okay. So, um, I want to invite you almost did it already, but there might be a little bit more. So, is there either something briefly that you didn't share, or is there a parting thought that you want to leave us
yeah,
with?
I would say to you people, and you brought this out of me when you mentioned that some people don't like marketing. I want you to know that the people, when you go out and market, when you say you don't want to market, they are the same people that are coming in to get portraits. They're humans just like everybody else. They just happen to be, you're just meeting them at a different place because they're running businesses. But you can get personal with them, offer to do portraits for them, get to know them, and create a relationship with people, the people that you're already buying from. You're buying a car, you're buying clothes, you're buying this. Those are people you're giving your money. Why not get a relationship with those people? They already know you. You
Mm,
see, and share, share their clients, get their offer gift certificates for their clients to come to you. and to do a portrait for them and the gift coming from the person. There's so much, that's a whole science to study.
Right.
You're not going to you can't sit in your studio and wait for the door to knock because nobody's coming. You
Yeah.
got to go out in the world and be visible.
Yeah. So that
That's
reminds me
why
of,
I leave you with that because that's, you can't make money selling to the air.
got it.
Right?
So my favorite, do you know the Far Side cartoons? Do you remember
A little bit,
Gary
not a,
Larson? So he liked buzzards for some reason. And so this just reminds me what you just said about, getting out there. There's two buzzards on a scraggly tree. These are all just black and white sketches looking over a field of wildebeests. And one of them says, "Patience be damned, I'm going to go kill something." So,
I like it.
so we can't just sit in our tree waiting for
No,
something to die.
you can't. You got to get up and do something. And
Get
but
out there.
if, if you want all, how bad do you want the things that you say you want? See,
Mm,
that's what it comes down to.
I love
You
it.
say you want things, but you got to do the heavy lifting. But
Do the work.
it's
Yeah.
not bad. It's great.
Yeah.
So you got a whole wonderful life ahead of you, many years. Shoot high, have a lot of fun,
Mm,
have a lot of adventures. Don't just sit back in fear because it's going to end anyway.
yeah. Thank you, Jeff, so much for being on my show again and for writing those books so that people can always be gaining from, your heart for supporting others. And, I know that people listening to this are like ready to go out there and
I
get
hope
something
so.
going. So,
I
yeah,
hope so. It's
thank
all
you.
true. Thanks for having me, Lucy.
You're welcome.
Have a great time. I'll talk to you soon. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm jumping back in just to say what a pleasure and an honor it was to have this conversation with Jeff. He's just got so much to share that there's no end to it, really. And I was going to try to do my usual summary, but I I just kept listening, and I know that you have gotten some great things out of it. So I don't have like a point one, point two, point three. I think he just shared so much inspiring wisdom and heart and so forth. So um, until next time, uh, have a great week or month or all of that. Take care.